Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the book that bangs the hardest and the most consistently because it drops wisdom bombs on our asses. Socrates and Jesus, a dialogue in heaven. Oh my goodness. Welcome to those in chat. Thank you for stopping in. Now, last time we have been talking about how time unfolds, we have been developing a model of, everything, of all things that can exist, of all thoughts that can exist, of all perceptions that can exist and do exist. And what are the building blocks, the puzzle pieces, the Lego bricks of those things? What do we use when we think? And when we perceive? In anything that exists, what are the primary units for existence? We've been building that into a map, which can also allow us to understand all human problems, human excellence, and our highest spiritual goals within that map. Last time we've been asking the question, how does that map unfold? How do the higher terms unfold the lesser terms? And then we, as human souls, how do we revert upon those higher terms to reach our excellence? We have been playing with a dialectic on the fact that all you can really do with your thinking is use your thinking to revert upon the model, because it's by reverting upon the model we gain the excellence of the thing. The closer your cooking reflects the recipe, the better the cooking's going to be. The better your painting reflects the model you have in mind or you're using as a model. If you've got a physical model, the better the painting's going to be. So too, in principle, the best use of our mind is to revert upon the model of our mind, giving us those parts that we use, how we bring it into a whole, and how we use it for our greatest excellence and benefit. An activity that itself derives from a model being used to revert upon itself as the model. We also discovered that, using that line of reasoning, we can understand that while there is a bringing together into a whole of parts in our thinking, which culminates in the experience of the model, which is the spiritual experience, because it can be understood as a whole of all parts. For there to be those two different things needed for thinking, you need to distinguish between whole and parts, one greater, one lesser, but connected. You need to distinguish between same and difference to think. Everything is the same as other things in that they're things, but different in that they're another thing. So these connected, greater, lesser pairs are units of perception, existence, thought, understanding. So while we can use our thinking to, through time, experience the whole of time or eternity, which has an existence outside of time while including all of time, while we can use the parts to revert upon the whole and experience the whole of all parts, while we can take what is different or other or many and revert it upon the same or the one, and gain the model of thinking, the whole and parts. For all of those things to exist, there must also be a section of reality that's the part that isn't connected with the whole, creating a Venn diagram. There can be an overlap of parts and whole, but there still has to be something that makes it a part, different from a whole. It's in that area, a part different from the whole, other different from same, many different from one, that we currently do our reversion. We have a fake model based on physical appearances or parts through which we create our own belief about a whole. We call that cognitive function belief. And we derive a belief about self and reality, and that's the model we are constantly reflecting on without our knowing of it, making us a kind of NPC or zombie, and that's the cause of human problems. In other words, we are always reflecting upon the model with our thinking. The only question is, do you want the fake model, which is a part disconnected from the whole? Now, we've also been realizing that belief isn't just different from the whole, it's in opposition to the whole. Because if you are not fighting against your own benefit of having understanding which can revert upon the model of thinking or mind knowledge, then why would you not get that? Why would you be satisfied with being a slave to someone else or belief? Why would you believe some other jabroni? In other words, the part would move into the part of all, or whole of all parts, and not just be a disconnected part, unless there was something within that cognitive stage of evolution, of development, that specifically fights against our own goodness, oneness, truth, and benefit. Understanding the necessity of human problems, but only in so much as a stage of development where we imitate a reflection upon the model by reflecting on a false belief about self and reality that we derive as a kind of solution to a problem we faced from childhood. So there's never ever any good reason to blame or shame or inflict punishment on humans for having problems, because it has to exist. It doesn't have to always exist, because a part disconnected from the whole is becoming but not being. Because being or mind is defined as the whole of all parts. In other words, we are supposed to transition through the negative use of mind, the negative use of our thinking, to be a zombie-like savage or slave or barbarian or caveman, to a false model derived from our own personal beliefs, derived from physical appearances based on our clan, our family clan, that gives us a false image of ourselves and a false belief about reality. That's in opposition to self and reality. We can move through that by understanding the model, and if there's someone in our life who can ask us questions about our specific personal model of belief. So while this is universal, this applies to everyone, it's the same for everyone. There are unique differences in your own personal idea of yourself and your own personal idea of reality, and therefore how you personally reject the real use of your mind to use your thinking to turn upon the model of thinking. And second, in a similar way, if that's mind, a whole of all parts, just as ignorance is the part not connected to the, in opposition to the whole, denying, rejecting, fighting against the whole, there must be that part of the Venn diagram for whole to be different from parts, that is a whole that's not touched by parts, giving us three terms of the Venn diagram: the whole that isn't touched by parts, the whole and part overlap, which we call the model or mind and the true use of thinking, and the part not connected with the whole, giving us a map. Looks like this. Allowing us to understand if this is the whole or the greater or the same, the greater term of the duads of thinking, perception, experience, creation. There is that section where the whole or greater isn't touched, Now, one of those terms is self, so we could say, well, let's use the word self because it's the highest. We can arrange these terms in a hierarchy. That's understanding. The self, that's not other, or the whole, that's not parts. We have this overlap, which is the model, which we can call mind or being, which you experience by separating your mind or soul from your physical perceptions, which are down here. So, physical appearances from where we derive our belief. Here we go. So here's that circles. The middle section is mind. Understanding and knowing, the two together is wisdom. And our ultimate goal of, hey, just as you have a mind and its proper use is to revert upon the model, which gives you the greatest excellence for its functioning, so too, there must be something that has mind and thinking, the self. So the greatest use, therefore, as a principle of self is to revert upon and know the true self. Now, we're doing that anyway, only we have beliefs that reject self and reality because we are constantly meditating or reverting upon and using a fake model of self and reality that rejects reality or mind and self. Allowing us to understand ignorance, the cause of our problems, wisdom, the cause of our excellence, and true excellence, if that's the truth of excellence, true excellence, self-reverting upon self. Again, never any, therefore, need for punishment. Punishment is unjust because each of these stages are necessary stages of spiritual evolution because we can progress towards the model, which is also the cause, by the way, the cause of the unfolding. And each cognitive function can be understood within this map of evolution. Meaning there's only really one thing we can do. Use our thinking to revert upon the model of thinking so we can master thinking by having all of these words, whole, part, same, different, excellence, beauty, justice, true, truth, and false, ultimate, greater, lesser. So we can use them in an order. Remember, ordering is part of understanding. And we can use that to follow a set of ordered questions to encourage that thinking upon, turning upon the mind or model in others and turning upon the self in others. And there's actually a third thing we can encourage through this kind of questions to ourselves or anyone we care about. Encourage the reflection on the unsuspected false model of self and reality we take for granted that's the cause of all human problems. So it's through questions that can be ordered in a beautiful way that we revert upon the model of mind or self, or uncover the belief-based model of mind and self that's the cause of our problems and suffering. So where do we get those questions from? Well, Socrates has been demonstrating the kinds of questions that allow us to get the model of mind and self in the dialogue with Jesus. But Socrates also points out, hang on a second, you also need to get specific personal guidance of what you need to perfect your own wisdom and your own knowing of self. The Greek word for that is phronesis. It's a tricky one. We don't have an English equivalent of the state of pure knowing of self. Because if this is the parts reverting upon and knowing itself as a whole of all parts or oneness, there are no parts up here. Specifically, parts stop here. That's where the parts stop. Parts stop because this bottom circle is parts, so parts stop here. So how do you know yourself as a whole when there's not even any parts? So it's sort of immediate, pure, clear knowingness of self, the Greeks call phronesis. Which gives us the 3 stages of being. People stuck down here, loving their beliefs, or philodoxia, love of own personal opinions. Most people are stuck down here. The developing of understanding upon the model. To learn the dialectic is the name for that ordered use of these terms to reflect on the model is called the dialectic. That's the activity of understanding, the experience of the model, knowing, understanding and knowing, wisdom. So here we have philodoxia, love of opinions, wisdom, philosophy, love of wisdom. That's what philosophy means. Philosophy means this part here. But Socrates says, hey, philosophy is just the beginning. Love of phronesis, philophronesis. If you're moving out of your opinions, you could say you love learning, philomathesis. Once you recognize what understanding is and its purpose, philosophy. And then to revert upon the self with that development of understanding, philophronesis. So what? Well, so how do we get the personal questions about the personal clues we need to solve our puzzle of ignorance and perfect our reading of these sorts of books for the sorts of texts written by Pierre Grimes and Socrates that reflect the logos, and our turning upon to accurately understand and name the self? Seeing that, hey, giving a false name to the self, misnaming the self, I'm a this or a that, I'm a small bean or a bad noodle, will always lead to disaster, tragedy, terrible consequences. That's how important knowing the self is. The full experience of the greatest positives of these terms is here, in wisdom, the brilliant light of being. So even wisdom is clues, because we have to take this positive and distinguish it here as that section of the whole that's not this positive. So not the whole of all parts, but the whole with no parts. So you can say this experience of pure beauty or the brilliant light of being is a gateway through which we have to move to see its cause, the self. But as Socrates has been saying, you won't be able to do that unless you have somebody asking the specific personal questions most relevant to you, most relevant in your work to purify your ignorance, most relevant in your reading and development of wisdom, and most relevant in your seeking to know and accurately name the self. And you know who gives you those questions? Your dreams. So it's only through dream analysis that you can perfect this perfection and purification, says Socrates. So we've been seeing that this therefore must be the map that our dream maker has to be able to ask those questions. And it can give you these states of pure self, these states of pure being or high states of mind, and also gives you negative states of mind that reflect your problem, and gives you a drama to give you the clues, so such that if you are developing your dialectic, this good use of mind, you can apply that dialectic to your dreams to uncover specific personal insights about what you need to see of your problem and what you need to perfect your wisdom and phronesis. The dream master must know the whole and the parts of you, of your life, of this map, of the stages of development. Meaning, It's our guide, it's necessary, but reflecting on the dream maker itself gives us a clue into what we are, because we want to be that. We want to be knowing of the self, knowing the model of the whole or mind, being able to most appropriately act as a dialectician to the parts. So how does this model play out? So we've moved from this model of the whole to time. This is Parmenides' third song, the dance between the instant, the gap between each frames of moments we call now, that cause motion. Just as your eye takes 30 something pictures a second and you go to watch a movie, it looks like all the actors are moving, but it's a static image, and then it is gone, and then there's a new one. So too does reality work that way. And so too do our thoughts. And so too do our dreams. Our dreams emerge out of a state of emptiness or darkness into the drama that we experience as our dream. And then it goes, and then there's another dream, and that happens several times a night. So by understanding how our dreams unfold, we can get an insight into how all moments, how all perception, how all thinking comes to be, or how the whole without parts can give rise to the parts, but do so most appropriately to the previous part in reference to the model. So in this, we have to account for the emptiness of the whole without parts, or self or phronesis. The model that it uses, the brilliant light, through which the whole and all parts are together, giving the goal so that the next moment can be most appropriately given in reference to the achievement of that goal. Because our dream maker doesn't just give you a sequence that fits, but it also carries along with it your dreams, your goals, but also has to know your true goal so it can benefit you. Just as a doctor has to take along, has to be aware of and take into account your own personal goals. I want to be happy, but I also want to have a drink on Saturday when I watch the game. But my goal as a doctor is to look at the model of the healthy body and prescribe what you need to do to reach that healthy body, while also taking into account you're going to have a drink on that Saturday, so I'm not going to prescribe medicine that doesn't mix well with alcohol. In other words, for you to function artfully, which benefits, art has to benefit, you need the model of the whole, or the excellence. As we've been saying, the only real thing we can do is revert upon our excellence, or the model of mind. So too our dream maker must know that, to know the excellence, but also its eternity. It's the ultimate goal of all living beings. Use that model of the whole to direct you in the next moment for your providence or benefit. Providence means a divine kind of guidance towards your benefit. So by understanding how our dreams come to be, we gain insight into how every thought comes to be and every moment comes to be, and we also therefore can create a map where we can put that whole map we've developed into to see how it functions through time and how we can best participate in it ourselves. So far we're working with the idea that there is a state of emptiness of the self called the instant between each moment. And then there is a movement from the whole, that's no parts, into the parts. And we are suggesting that there is also that model through which it moves. So there's the transition point between each moment to the gap there is a movement from the whole through the model of mind into parts. Equally so here, which means our journey can be understood within the instant as well, because we need to revert upon the model, which is that transitional point of pure being, but move through it to the instant to know the self. And what we have seen also is this also reflects reincarnation. When we die, everyone experiences this brilliant light of being to the degree they've perfected their wisdom, phronesis, and understanding especially, but also remove their false model of the self. In other words, how much you've done those three things that you're here to do. And based on the depth of your experience of the brilliant light of being, you come back with a corresponding depth of intelligence, capability, and care. Character. Which means our goal to escape the prison or the chains of our ignorance, but also the prison of reincarnation itself. Do you want to keep reincarnating back into Earth where there's so much injustice and suffering and ignorance, which isn't real, but it's a shadow reflecting the model through parts, which is itself a reflection of or shadow of the self? Or do you want to move to higher states of being and see what the self does once it's free of ignorance and has the dialectic understanding in its back pocket? Notice this isn't a non-existence when you escape reincarnation. It's a escaping Hades, escaping illusion. Just as when you wake up from a dream, you don't cry that you no longer exist because you're not in the dream world. You can participate in a greater kind of reality. Socrates says, if you're a true philosopher, you will race to meet me here, where you can join me and other better humans who've completed their work, and gods and spirits who are fellow guides and travelers on an even greater adventure. In other words, our fear of losing ourself is not true. What you're afraid of losing is the fake model of yourself, your belief and image of yourself, which is ignorance. What you're afraid of leaving is not reality, but a fake model of reality, because this is true reality, true excellence, true self, because this section of the Venn diagram is true. The model is the truth, or the highest experience, oneness, goodness, whereas this is truth, one and good. So that's the ultimate. So our three terms that describe truth: lesser, greater, ultimate. Meaning that transition from each moment is from the ultimate or the self through somehow the brilliant light of being, which implies there is a opportunity to experience the brilliant light of being or the model or mind knowing itself in every moment. You don't have to wait until you're Thetan level 50 and you've paid all the money to the Scientology leader. You don't have to wait until you die and go to heaven, says the preacher. You don't have to wait until you've, I don't know, become an altar boy or pope or something. Donated enough money to dear leader. You don't have to donate any money. It's available in each moment. The model and the instant or the self. That's the third hypothesis. How this model unfolds through time. But again, we won't know this. We won't be able, while this is a rational, even necessary, given what we've been reading and our reflection and dialectics on this, model or hypothesis It's still a hypothesis. In other words, only when we experience the movement from the now into the instant and how we return to that whole of no parts and then emerge again through the model into the parts, can we verify this. Now, which means you better not wait until you cark it. While we have the potential to make this journey when we die, the role of our life is to develop this understanding and knowledge. In other words, practice it. Or as Socrates says, die a bunch of times before they finally bury you. Or does Pierre say that? The process of separating your soul from the body is the ultimate process of the dialectic. And then as you emerge, just like after you emerge from a dream, you use that time you have in your physical life to reflect on the dream and understand it, to perfect your understanding, your wisdom, and your phronesis. Therefore, our hypothesis that the only real thing you can do is use your thinking to revert upon the model is reverting upon the gap or the transition through the whole of all parts, the model of mind, the brilliant light of being, which is experienced as bliss, but then to go beyond to the gap, which is a whole without parts, and recognize the self. That's the importance of understanding. And dreams demonstrate this because we can have stages of, or either of these two enlightenment states, whole of all parts or whole without parts, the mind or the self, but we'll forget it unless we reflect on it in dream analysis. We won't recognize it. If you don't have an understanding of it, how can you recognize it? If you don't have a name of it, how have you unified it into a oneness for understanding? Therefore, and by the way, it's the false model of this that's belief and the cause of human ignorance and suffering and problems. So you're doing it anyway. All we're doing is doing it properly. That's the waking up to our purpose, says Socrates. Now, again, we have to confirm it. And the best way of confirming it is through dreams, because this process also applies to each thought, each moment that we perceive and experience, but also our dreams. Can you keep an awareness of yourself as you move into dreams and move out? And then when you wake up, can you reflect on that dream you had between each waking moment? Practice the dialectic to understand the dream and the messages of your dreams. The messages of the dreams will give you what you need to let go of the now, or the false identification of reality and self with that, to experience reality and the self. It'll give you the negative states of mind that reflect your ignorance, and it will help you develop your higher states of mind with understanding, and also you can have this experience again. In dream analysis, you reflect on the experiences which bring them back to mind, but also you're engaged in understanding. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. So you can call this the model of meditation, or the highest yoga. Because not only are you having those high states of enlightenment, you're also able to address your problems. Not only are you having those states of enlightenment, but you are understanding them through these questions for yourself, no belief, because you're being asked questions. And in that development of understanding, you are reflecting upon it. And not only do you have these spiritual experiences and understanding that isn't in any other spiritual tradition, that's the Logos. This is the only spiritual tradition that has understanding, Logos. But you also get this other experience. So that's saying a Taoist who thinks enlightenment is the brilliant light of being, and a kind of Buddhist who thinks that emptiness is enlightenment, they can cross each other on a path and they won't recognize each other. Because they don't have understanding, they would therefore not have the full model. Meaning they can't account for all of the different kinds of Taoist enlightenment experiences and the kinds of nirvana experiences or emptiness experiences. That's the significance of understanding. You don't have to pick teams. Equally so, you don't just understand Christian belief or Abrahamic belief. All belief. That's what it means to have the model. As our dream maker must have to account for not just your dreams, not just your girlfriend's dreams or your bestie's dreams, but every dream. That's the significance of the self, phronesis, having the mind model and being able to most appropriately respond to the parts. Having the whole of all parts, the whole and parts all together as self. Or you could even say lesser, greater, and ultimate. Which is, by the way, the golden analogy. A is to B as B is to A plus B. So if this is we have been using lesser, greater, ultimate to understand false, truth, and true. But if you wanted to say, hey, hang on a second, our ultimate self must account for all, and this whole unfolding through time and each moment must be somewhere. If it's all self, then we could say this is the lesser, this is the greater, and having both functioning in self would be the ultimate, which is A is to B as B is this kind of wisdom to having the whole, which is the golden analogy or the phi ratio. Which is, funnily enough, the most beautiful or aesthetic. So let's keep that in our back pocket for later. So, better than Taoism, better than Buddhism, because we have both, but not just both in experience. We have an understanding of it, which allows us to perfect that experience, have a greater union with it. You might have a one-off or a brief moment in a dream, but it's through dream analysis you can go into it in more depth, integrate it, unify with it. But also it accounts for your problems. I ain't seen no Taoists or Buddhists, anyone, no spiritual tradition accounts for your ignorance or problems. Which is why we have those archetypes of the sage that also has problems. The pervy sage, Master Jiraiya in Naruto. The gambling sage, gambling problem, Tsunade. The drinking sage. I don't know. Who's drinking? Tsunade, I guess, as well. I guess all of them. They all have drinking. I was thinking, who's Goku's teacher? Master Roshi. But he has all of the vices. It's a trope. It's a trope because it's so common. Because whatever experience you've had, it's not the same activity as applying that. It's the same dialectic, but you also have to apply the dialectic to your problems, the false model of those two things, the false model of reality or the whole, and the false model of the whole without parts or self, the instant. And you get all three in dreams, both in experience, states of mind, and understanding that you derive from the drama that accompanies those states of mind. Therefore, it's through dream analysis we get our specific guidance and clues for those three things that we can use our mind for: perfecting, removing our false model, gaining the full model, and knowing the self. And it's through dreams that we can verify our understanding of the model by seeing how it unfolds moment to moment, by looking at how dreams come to be and then emerge and return to the gap or instant. So it's in the content, it's preparing us for seeing it in each moment, like Hercules or Penelope, the ideal heroes, the ideal people. But as a thing, you are preparing for it as well. Because while you're getting your specific content, you are engaged in dream analysis is the activity of turning about from the now, turning about, using the now to turn about upon the gap or the instant, which is what we want to be able to do in each moment. So in each moment we can see self, have the pure state of mind, and function most ideally to the parts, just as the dream master. So just as we have the ideal person who has that, Hercules, the ideal woman who has that, who's even more ideal because she has to deal with further problems by living in a patriarchy, Penelope, the ideal woman, we can say, well, here's a third character who has got this excellence, the ideal hero, our dream maker. So in 3 ways, in getting our specific content through dream analysis, by engaged in the activity of reflecting on our dreams, which is a kind of yoga in itself, because you're reflecting on the gap between each waking moments, because you're asleep. And in a third way, by reverting on the whole of the dream maker, you are recognizing yourself. It's the model for self-excellence or phronesis. So now we have an activity of dream analysis where we participate in. So therefore, through dream analysis, what seems to be the greatest yoga or spiritual tradition, and everyone can play, because everyone has dreams. Don't have to be a monk, you don't have to wear funny robes or give your heart to Jeebas or any of that bullshit. Anyone can play. You get the specific parts, personal guidance, your guru, you could say, is your dream maker. You get a second kind of yoga, because as a whole, you are engaged in the activity of the practice of reversion upon the gap. Let's make some more space. As a whole, you're engaged in the practice of reversion upon the gap. Between each moment. So you're engaged in an activity which is a different kind of yoga as a whole, the activity, but also you are engaged in by reflecting on the dream maker itself. And by doing dream analysis, you're becoming like the dream maker, because you're matching your mind to it to understand it, becoming like the dream maker. You are doing a yoga or practice of both. Because the dream maker has both. The gap, the whole without part, the whole, the parts, and all together. So your specific contents or parts, an apprehension of, or you are practicing seeing the gap. So as a whole, you are doing a yoga because of your activity as a whole, but also you are learning about the dream maker, which is you, the Isekai God, the you at the end of your journey, the self, which functions both in the gap and most appropriately for each moment. Whole and parts, and both whole and parts together. A is to be the lesser, your specific parts, the greater, the whole model. The whole as an activity as a whole of reflecting on the gap is a kind of training to see the gap, but also because we're reflecting on the dream maker, which seems to have functioning in both, it's the model of both. The dream maker has to be in the gap and so can see the gap and can understand dreams. So in understanding dreams, we get our particular parts for our own particular guidance. In the whole activity of reflecting on the gap, we're training ourselves to see the gap, but the dream maker has both A and B. It has the gap, but it also creates the thing that you're understanding in the dream analysis. It creates the particulars and it has the whole. So the dream maker is A and B. So we can say the parts, the whole, and the self. Dream analysis does all three. Therefore, even if you don't have a good dialectic, practice it anyway, because the simple activity of reflecting on the dream is itself a yoga, is itself a preparation. So even if you suck at dream analysis, try it anyway. Do it every day. Make it a practice. Even if you suck at dream analysis, as you reflect on that dreams, wonder about the dream maker. What must it know? How much power must it have? How much care must it have? Could that be me? So even if you are not so good at doing the parts because your dialectic needs practice or whatever, still do it because you're getting this, and still wonder about the dream maker because that's a kind of yoga. You're reflecting on your ultimate stage. Just as they say there's a meditation, imagine you are the guru. Imagine you're free now of your problems. What would you do? What would it be like? That's a kind of meditation that gurus give. Imagine you're the dream maker. So the practice of dream analysis, even if you suck at its skill, and the wondering about the self that is the dream maker, even if you suck at the skill, and imagining what would it be like to be the dream maker, that's still 2 out of 3 yogas right there. And by the way, even though you're still doing 2 out of 3, you're practicing your dialectic. So you are still improving that first one. It's a win-win-win. 3 wins there, buddy.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win-win-win. And if you have friends, you can have even more wins because you can do it together further perfecting your art of dialectic.
It's a win-win-win-win-win. Win-win-win-win-win.
So win. See? Holy shit. This book bangs. Have I mentioned this book bangs? Have I mentioned this book's a fucking banger? Holy fuck. How many books have you read? How many books have you read that incorporates the entirety of philosophy, can account for the entirety of spirituality, can place yourself in that lineage from know thyself, background, Homer. Here are some people who've done it. Penelope, Hercules, Xenophanes, by the way, the self that's watching is one. It's the whole of all seeing, hearing, and thinking. Parmenides, his student, by the way, you won't get it unless you do the dialectic. That's how you use your understanding. Diotima, and by the way, that's a loving relationship, love and logos, through the perfection of the dialectic to know the model and self. Socrates, by the way, you can't do it without dreams. And then you, or Pierre Grimes, 2,000 years later, after we murdered him. So Plato's after Socrates, and he loses dream analysis, he loses midwifery, he has some dialectic. And then after him, Damascus, Plotinus, and Proclus, who were also teachers at the first university of the West. But really, it's that lineage from Socrates to Pierre Grimes who rediscovered this, or rediscovered by working with alcoholics and curing them from their alcoholism in the 60s, rediscovered that the method is called philosophical midwifery, and Socrates was doing it. Oh shit, now that he's removed his beliefs, he can read Socrates. Get this, get the significance of dreams, get the philosophy of get the dialectic applied to truth. Understand all spiritual traditions, therefore given the Buddha stick, next in line to be Buddha, the stick that Kung Fu Panda gets, I hear in I haven't seen the movie, but apparently in one of them he gets, you are the next leader. So, Homer, Xenophanes, we only have a little bit. It's the whole of self, that's seeing, hearing, and thinking. Parmenides, here's the dialectic so you can do it. Diotima, and by the way, relationships, love and logos. Socrates, dreams, you can't do it without dreams. Pierre Grimes, here is a book you can read that bangs so fucking hard so you can get the whole thing. And then you. That's the lineage. That's what you are. How many other books gives you that complete lineage and accounts for all human problems? Gives you the map, giving you what you need to account for all human problems, put an end to violence, sadism, and punishment, which is the same thing, by seeing that all human problems necessarily have to exist as a part in opposition to the whole, otherwise the parts would join with the whole, but only temporarily as a stage of development, because it's not true being, as a giving you the puzzles you need to wake up and reflect on your problems through dream analysis to perfect your wisdom, remove your fake model of belief that's the cause of your ignorance, and go on through the gateway of that brilliant light of being of wisdom to know the self, making you, as Socrates says in the book, as immortal and a friend of the gods as any man can be. And Socrates says, that's where I am. I've escaped the prison of reincarnation, you idiots. Join me. Be a friend. I'll meet friends and fellow guides, fellow travelers and guides here, who are gods and humans who have completed their work. Trust me, he says, better people than you find here, having better conversations than you find here on Earth. Because it's Hades. It's where people play out a stupid addiction and loyalty to their ignorance and problems. That's why so few people are in this game. You're here to get attached to your bullshit, false image of self and reality, and play out your problems so that you can learn. How many other books gives you the whole model and gives you a model for how that whole model, which explains all human problems, ignorance, excellence, wisdom, and ultimate purpose, destiny, goal, self, phronesis, and also shows how it unfolds through time, not just how it unfolds through time, but gives you the necessary activity to prove it for yourself. This isn't even just a hypothesis, and it's way better than belief. You don't have to believe anyone, you can understand it, and your understanding you can verify dream analysis. That's Socrates. It's through this book from Pierre Grimes that we reconnect with Socrates and pick up our spiritual and learning tradition that was silenced by stupidity of religious belief and political belief. That's where we are. So that's the significance of dream analysis, giving us the parts we need, practicing as a whole, reverting on the gap, which is a kind of practice, but also we can understand what the dream master must know to know the self, seeing as it has to have all, which is our goal, the self. Holy fuck, what a book. How many other books do you know that are banging this hard? Can you see why we've stopped reading all the other books to get into this one? And we have spam in the chat.
I
Press the
hate
spam
to have
button.
to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
Fake AI.
Further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
AI slop, go away.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
This is an AI guy. It is spam. They are trying to convince them to flood the internet with I'm a human, I don't listen to robots.
Don't listen to robots.
And this is spam. But that's funny. It's like the whole business. You don't talk to me, you robot. Shut up.
Right, shut up. So, oh my god, what a fucking book. So that's where we are. Worth reviewing, worth nailing down. Which is kind of that same activity, because these were our conclusions from yesterday. Here we are, jumping over the gap. Is that a kind of yoga? All of the Platonic dialogues begin with, yesterday we did this. Is that traversing of the gap something worth doing? While also nailing down our understanding and seeing the significance of what we're reading? Book bangs, oh my god, that's where we are. Let's jump in. Let's go. Here's the book. It's amazing.
Gooners.
Oh my god, it's not just for gooners.
You know, some people would chase a chimp around. Some people would devote themselves to all kind of science or art or experimentation. Who knows?
I don't know.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Awesome, man.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's not open. Here we go. Got it.
Dead-eyed. And I don't use this kind of terminology lightly. Dimwits.
Dimwits.
You're a baby. You're a little baby.
You're a little baby calling me a dimwit. Here we go. So, good review. Super awesome. And super awesome book that we're reading. Whoops. And then I do this, and then I go back to here. Socrates. So, dreams are important. We have to account for thoughts and perception and any experience. But because relations are constant, yet terms vary, the principle of reality that allows for thinking and analogy, we can examine dreams to make sense of all of them. Because you have one dynamic throughout. So we just might say that in a similar way, whatever springs from an emptiness and returns has the mark of generation, if the many is all that is. And moreover, to say it has sprung in some mysterious way from the one, how can we say that the one and the many are successive, so that in becoming one, its being many is let go of. Let go of our problems. Remember the true idea of sacrifice? Not sacrificing the good to be a believer, but sacrificing the belief to reach the good. That's the opposite. So that's the difference between Jesus and Socrates, or the Judaic tradition and the Hellenic tradition. Understanding and belief. A better understanding of sacrifice. Let go of the many, and when becoming many, the one vanishes. For in becoming both one and many, and in time, it passes through the instantaneous that does not exist in time, Jesus. But into this and out from this, the two dance their sacred dance we philosophers call Parmenides' third song. His third hypothesis. It is between successive instances that the gap becomes the source of all change. Ooh. The melody of that song runs through many sacred things, says Jesus, and I am very pleased to hear of this. The gap is surely a most noble expression for the intelligible logos that binds together all things and is the source of all. So, this map here is a map of the logos. We have our fake logos, our pathologos, source of our belief. We have our perfecting of the true logos through understanding in the dialectic. These happens in the nows, the moments. And if we do perfect our logos through dialectic, we can reflect on logos itself, the model of the logos, pure mind. But also Socrates went ahead and said, hey, you know what's creating each moment from the gap? That's the logos as well. So this binds together all things, all change, and how change can come to be. And you could say the whole thing is the self logo, or the self logos. The inherent intelligibility or logos of the self expressing itself in all, well, in this model. Analogously through thoughts, dreams, moments, etc. Yes, the gap does not have a temporal time existence, but it is through it that the continuity of each thing is assured. It is through this that the next event has been shaped to uniquely fit into the moment. It's through the gap. Which is neat because we want to find a place for that brilliant light as well as the quality list. And if it's a through, then maybe it goes through one to the other. We can say that this process brings into a unity all that is. And it brings to it the next phase of its existence in the most perfect way. Just as the model brings it into a unity. So by bringing it to a unity, we are becoming like the dream maker or the moment maker. Which is a kind of yoga through likeness. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Gooners.
Sorry for being gooners. Brings it to a unity and brings the next phase. All that is. Why? Well, because all that is the many and the many is the moment. So all that is created every instant. All that is, every alien species and galaxy and all light years and all distances. Imagine that. What kind of intelligence must self have to create all that is and then bring it out of existence and then in so perfectly, so appropriately, for according to the previous moment and according to the model of its development and goal. Holy fuck, you must be pretty awesome. No wonder you're Isekai God. That's a trope from animes, some animes where the main character starts off in ignorance with all his problems at the beginning of his character arc, but there's some Isekai is like a type of anime where they go into another world or a video game world or an alternate virtual world or something. But they have to level up, but sometimes they have a Isekai god character who's guiding them through their journey, giving them instructions, helping them develop. And sometimes the trope is it's them in the future. That's why it knows what it's doing and can guide it and because it's guiding it as you level up your ability. As the main character levels up his individual abilities, eventually he's learning what the guide itself is and becoming like the guide, as well as leveling up its parts. Just as we are becoming like the Dream Maker as we level up our individual skills and abilities and remove our problems in our character arc. But the idea of the Isekai God is it's the main character at the end of his development. So that might be something to ponder about with this Now Maker from the Instant or the Dream Maker. Interesting. What do you say, soundboard?
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Oh, there you go. It must be right. Jesus, the moment has been unified perfectly, as an art can give birth to its proper excellence. The creative dynamic must reach into the most fundamental mode of existence of what truly is. So this is the model of the creative dynamic, and it must reach into the most fundamental mode of existence of what truly is. The moment has been unified. So just as the moment is unified, so too does an art. Here we are. Our hypothesis we've been playing with is the true use of our functioning is to revert upon the model that brings its proper excellence. So too, each moment turns upon the model in each moment, in each gap, in each instant, bringing its perfection or excellence, which is an art. To perfect something benefits it, therefore it's an art as well as an excellence. Therefore, this creative dynamic of turning upon the model to find what's most appropriate in each moment is the paradigm of creativity. And therefore, this creative dynamic has to apply to everything, including what most truly is. This model here, with all that green scribbles, is a model for the Dream Maker, the Isekai God self, but also creativity itself, accounting for all that truly is as well, making it the paradigm. Hooray.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance. That's weird that you think that.
It's weird that you think about that. Peanuts? I thought it was for murder. It's weird that you think that.
Brain rot escalates.
Oh my goodness. That is true, because within the moment, it is possible to act. And in acting, we affect that reality that underlies all that is. We're affecting that movement. And it is this that changes throughout our reflections and contemplations, and carries the soul along, assuring our particular spiritual growth and development. So, the moment gives us our ability to act, so we have a choice. In acting, we affect that reality that underlines all that is. So we are participating in this model of moment-to-moment creation of reality towards that model and Isekai God self. We do that, so this change happens through our reflections and contemplations. It's not how much you can manipulate people to exploit them for profit, or how many Bugattis you can buy with that exploitation of humans and planet. It's simply reflection and contemplation. That's what we're doing. We read, we reflect, we contemplate. That's the game. We're using our mind. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-
Now, Emma. So it's this reflection and contemplation that we're engaging in on this channel, the best channel on Twitch that carries the soul along. So that's how we grow our soul. That's how we get better. And that reflection and contemplation on this kind of a text and our dreams is our particular spiritual growth affecting reality and the movement. So, hey, if you are leveling up, then this creative model has to account for that, meaning you're affecting reality as it unfolds. You're so powerful! So long as you play this game. Spiritual growth and development. We call it ousia. Though some people call it substance. Yet that word substance does not carry all the meanings we have found that are central to the idea of ousia. Both ousia and the activity forms a unity. So, ousia is that self-reflecting on the model. That's why some people can call it substance. But that's why we need the word ousia, and that's why you need to read Balboa translations of Socrates. Otherwise, you'll just get substance. You'll just get the lesser form. You'll miss the greater. Okay? But also, we've been saying, hang on a second, logos is the activity. Isn't that what we use when we think and we reflect and revel? Aren't we using? No, but you're also using the logos for ousia. You're using the logos and dialectic to reflect on self and the model of mind, or the fake model if you're purifying. So ousia is the nature, but it's also the activity that springs from the nature, just as logos is also the intelligibility of that nature and also what we use to revert. So logos and ousia are both substance and model, which is fascinating. They're aspects of each other, really. So that's a big puzzle because we want the self. If the logos is the creator, it needs to have all this ability to create and unfold itself, but it's also the qualityless. How can there be a qualityless logos? If logos is the source of all qualities, whole, part, etc., etc. If it's the plan, how can it be qualityless and the source of all planning and models and thinking? Equally so, if ousia is substance, but it's also that dynamic of self-reflection that perfects our own soul and affects reality because we're developing, how can there be a pure model in the instant which is not qualityless, which is qualityless? So what kind of ousia model is the nature of self and the activity of self? Equally so, what kind of logos is that? So same question for ousia and logos as it pertains to self. That's the big puzzle. In other words, say that again better. We've been saying there is a model which you can know all at once, which is that self-reversion or ousia. A fake model. I just know Jesus is true. I just know Xenu is true. I just know all my parents' racist beliefs are true. There is the true model where you know the brilliant light of being all at once. It's a dynamic mind, so there's an ousia quality of turning about. But also, there is an activity from that model, which is the use of thinking in words. Logos. So we've been saying logos and ousia, but Socrates has been saying, hey, by the way, they're both the same. This activity is a kind of reflection on the model, either false beliefs or mind or self. And by the way, that knowing yourself means that there's something intelligible knowing it, and there's something intelligible to be known, something you can make sense of. That's the logos. So this is ousia and logos, but in another way, they're both ousia and logos. Our question is, what kind of ousia or logos is the knowing of self and its activity? Those are the two big ones, considering it's a whole without parts. And what we're saying is it's also the instant, and it's the dream maker, and it's the source of all change, and maybe it's Isekai God you self. Another review. I need to review so I can nail it down in my thinking. I don't often hear this on TV or on the news, so I've got to do the work to remind myself and nail it down. But you can also benefit too, so it's a
win.
I thought so.
I think it's awesome.
Great. Both ousia and the activity forms a unity. Oh, there we go. There, we've just done that. We've seen that the activity and the ousia, the logos and the activity, forms a unity. Let's highlight that. Jesus. Yes, the idea of the instant is what several of my followers have called the gap. The moment of mystery. Your followers have gone further because of your deep interest in understanding, since this is what shapes one's own inner experience. So again, all we can do is understanding. Perfect our understanding. That shapes your inner experience. Why? Because eventually you see through your understanding. You make sense of the world through understanding. Which also we can apply to our problems. We project our fake understanding, our ignorance onto the world. And then we have to respond to that injustice, which is the irony that we do the same thing. So that's cry bullying or projection. Isn't it neat we can understand the dynamics of human problems? I think it's neat.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
No, don't get me.
That's anti-feminist in some way.
In some way, it's anti-feminist to find and get me. So we've gone further because understanding shapes our inner experience. It affects you. It's not just thinking for debate's sake. In the gap, as it were, there is the intelligence that instantaneously reverts on the map of all spiritual development. Holy fuck, there's our question. What kind of ousia does the self use to know itself if there's no parts? And then equally so, how does it function with no parts most excellently? The same way understanding functions most excellently, having reflected on the whole of all parts in wisdom or knowing. Oh my god, good thing we have a question. Otherwise we might not have seen what's there to be seen. Just like asking a question in dream analysis is necessary to see what's to be seen in your dreams. Ooh.
I don't know, whatever.
Whatever.
So, I don't know. Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology lightly, dimwits.
Dimwits?
It's sad. Ad. And I'm sad for it. 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 And I'm
I'm
sad for it.
sad for you if you call me a dimwit. So there is, in the gap, there is the intelligence that instantaneously reverts on the map. What? Of all spiritual development, and identifies each soul and thing, providing for it its continuity with its next step and path to fulfilling its destiny, which means the ultimate purpose to which all things are moving. Okay, so it instantaneously has the map and also instantaneously identifies the parts. So that's fascinating. So the self, dream maker, instant maker, instantaneously knows the map and instantaneously knows the parts. And it better for it to create every instant like it does. Holy fuck. Can you imagine? Jesus. And I shall add that the whole shines through under the banner of justice. So somehow the idea or principle of justice itself has to fit with this model. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
I said it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-
Shall I add that the whole shines through? Yes, we've already added. Through the banner of justice. Justice plays out through this. Yes, Jesus. Yes. That is very true. As truth is the hallmark of creation. That's a strange thing to say. I don't quite get that, so I'll highlight it. Now, we can say that each moment has been brought into existence through a supremely vast intelligence, recursively. Oh, okay. Each moment being brought into existence through what? Through a supremely vast intelligence that's recursively functioning in a unified way. These are big words now. For the unfolding of the cosmos. And as such, it reflects the higher principles in every microsecond. The uniting power from which it has emerged is the creative activity we call ousia. There's the activity of it. The activity is the ousia-ing. The unified itself is the shadow of the one itself. All right, can we see the parts? Truth. Well, we've been using truth to apply to the self, or truth. Wait. No, truth is the model. True self, good self, one self is here. Truth, goodness, and oneness is here, or mind. Physical appearances are down here. All right. So a supremely vast intelligence recursively functioning in the unifying way for the unfolding of the cosmos. So it sounds like this is the recursively, this is the ultimate knowing of the model, reflecting these higher principles every microsecond. So this is needed for the creation of every moment. The unifying power from which it has emerged is the creative activity we call ousia. So this creation is the activity of ousia. So our use of thinking is to revert upon the model and know ousia. But ousia's activity is to create each moment. And that unified itself is the shadow of the one itself. So this is the shadow of the one. So we have the one in the instant which has no parts, the self, that instantaneously knows that model, which is itself a recursive ousia, that uses all its own selfness as a shadow of the self for the principles to create each moment. So it seems to be a self or instant reverting upon the model instantaneously because it's the self to create each moment. Like that. Holy crap. Deep stuff. But also immediate. Like, we're talking about the highest principles, creation itself, and the principles of creation that should apply to any creation. But we're also talking about the most immediate. It's the most transcendent. It's the gap that causes everything. We're figuring out how it works. But it's you. You're doing this. It's the self. And it's every moment. Every moment you're doing this. This is happening. And it's through our understanding that we develop and shape our inner experience. So it's through our understanding of this that we can participate in it and see it happening. Just as, can you enjoy a football game if you don't understand what a fourth down is, or a quarterback, or a touchdown? Eventually you'll see through your understanding and you can see what's there to be seen in the game. Well, Socrates, it is good to see. Oh, let's do shadow of the one itself. So the unified is the shadow of the one. That's interesting. Because what we're seeing is, in the creation of each moment, it's a generative model. Sorry, it's a generative creation based on a model. Whereas that model itself, the whole and the parts combined here in this Venn diagram intersection, is a shadow. The model is a shadow. So while the model is model to creation, the kind of creation of the self or instant to that model is a shadow. So instantaneous. So instant creates instantaneously, which is quite fitting.
These absolute dullards, borderline chimps, who want to kiss a fox.
I don't want to kiss a fox.
Here we go.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
Talking about a bunch of slop. Talking about kissing a fox.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Unbelievable these days. Well, Socrates, it is good to see that your philosophy reflects the power of that intelligence, and that, so we're doing it in our philosophy, and that your study of dreams confirms your philosophy in a personally meaningful way. There we go. Oh my goodness. It's what we've been saying. The stage of development that we're at, which is Socrates' level, is to confirm all of this. You have to do dream work, and it's fun, and it's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win.
So, this map or philosophy reflects the power of that intelligence, and that your study of dreams confirms. Can't do that with materialism. Can't do that with modern science. You can only torture a bunch of monkeys for so long so that Mother Nature reveals her secrets. Modern science, Aristotelianism. But it's still a theory. You're going to have to torture that next monkey. You're going to have to drop that next nuke. You're going to have to, justify that next false belief. Or you can just use the mind to revert upon the model of mind and confirm what you can't confirm physically, but you can confirm with the use of the mind in dreams. Holy fuck. Ain't no belief if you can confirm it for yourself. It's a banger. It's a banger. Book's a banger.
Making ice cream's a good and courageous thing.
And reading this book is a good and courageous
I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome too. Then the one becomes the all, and the all becomes the one. So we can, in the study of dreams, we can confirm that the one becomes the all as the all becomes the one. Therefore, we can add to this map all and one. We've been using one and many, but we could also say add to this list. All. Whoops. Whoops. So in this way that we can confirm in dreams, the one becomes the all. Earlier he said it's the many that's the all. But we can say one becomes the all. And then the all becomes the one. This is the dance. This is the dance. Each moment. Flash, 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 flash. Our entire multiverse is created and destroyed, created and destroyed, created and destroyed. If our problems is that we identify with the other and we don't recognize the self, and the meaning of our existence is to perfect our understanding so that we can develop to see the model and know the self, then all suffering is nothing other than how long does it take, or the time gap, the time delay, the lag between self and returning. But if this happens 30 times a second or something, you can live that way. You can have the unfolding from the one into the all and the return in each instant. To remember yourself and instantaneously know the model of all, which is the creation for each moment in time. Recognize physical time as a moving image of the model, a moving image of eternity. But you don't get wrapped up in it, you don't get identified with it, because you instantaneously go back to the instant and recognize the self. So for those who want to remove suffering, this seems to be the model. And once again, confirm it through dream work. Study of dreams. Pretty neat. I think it's pretty neat. Amen. Well said, Jesus. Well said. The becoming proceeds and returns as it reflects the intelligible order. The intelligence we speak of has another name that we enjoy hearing. And we call that mind itself. So the intelligible order, or the model, or the map is the intelligence. So the becoming is here, or the all, or the in time, or the parts, or the difference. There's this, and it reflects this creation from the moment back into the instant, from the now into the instant, now, instant, reflects mind itself, which matches our map. Because we have physical appearances, here, mind here, and self here. So that we've got a bunch of terms to name this. We've got this as Purusea, we've got the map, we've got the ultimate destiny of all man, we've got the nature of mind itself, the intelligible order, the intelligence. So there seems to be a movement back and forth through that, known instantaneously by the logo self that creates. So we can map it through time. Quite neat. We want to be able to see it so that we never are disconnected from self. We never attach to ignorance. We're always free. whole, true, good one. But of course, Socrates is saying you won't get there, that knowing of the self here. Self, knowing itself, and functioning instantaneously to create each moment like that. Unless you get into playing dreams. I say play. I say dream work, but it's play. It's fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
4 trillion people are still gonna listen to this.
No, 4 trillion, that's a lot. That would be nice. Hope they subscribe. So the becoming proceeds and returns, reflecting the intelligible order, that intelligence we call the mind itself. Holy fuck. Very true it is, Socrates. How long until the chorus comes back in? Where are our haters? I want to talk to the haters. There we go. 178. We're on. Well, the haters come in saying, no, you can't know this. You can't do this. Shut up. I'm better. I'm smarter because I'm ignorant and loud. 5 pages away. Very true it is, Socrates. Once more, who among your followers have come closest in advancing this philosophy of yours? You! You're doing it. The viewer. The subscriber. You, bro. But who else? A crown needs to be placed on Damascus, but not for the highest office. That's for the people who watch the stream.
All checks out.
Damascus has reflected on all those philosophers we have mentioned. Behind it, he saw a reality that can be expressed as the one, the unified, the reflecting ousia, and the activity that has given birth to our cosmos. So, there's the one, there's the unified, there's the reflection on that ousia, and there's the activity that has given birth to the becoming. He expressed a high value for dreams, but had not seen how to bring them into his system of philosophy. Sure, there'll be others along the way who will go further. That's you. Hooray. That's you. Others who can go further. Why? Because we're mapping the one, the unified, the reflecting ousia here into our model of time. The one, the reflecting ousia, the activity of creation, and then its return to the gap, and then But we're doing one better than Damascus, incorporating dreams into it. Simply with these 3 here. By doing dream analysis, you can confirm it. Trackpad battery very low. Oh dear.
You'll get a bunch of views.
Well, at least I'll get a bunch of views. Specific parts for our personal development of our understanding to see this as a whole. We're doing this reversion, so it's a kind of activity. And by reflecting on the whole of it, the Dream Master, we are getting an understanding of the model of self we're aiming for. So in that way, we've gone one step better than Damascus by bringing dreams into the mix. Like Socrates says we had to. Hooray for you! Balloons. I have to plug in my trackpad. Later. Get rid of the notification. Notification is AI.
It's like the whole business model is robots will replace that, and that's that's terrifying.
Terrifying robots telling me to plug in my trackpad. Surely there'll be others along the way who go further, and they are the people who subscribe to this podcast. Hooray for them. Jesus, we have reached an interesting point, and to go the next step will delight us both. I have been wondering about this for a while now. Tell me, Socrates, how will we decide if a follower is yours or mine? Oh. Now that is an interesting question, Jesus. Sounds like a video game. You have your followers and I have mine, and we'll do war on the map. Your point is well made, and it may be that it will decide much if it turns out that the follower you are going to mention is shared by us both. Could there be another possibility? What if this new follower of yours turns out to have a view that goes beyond both of our positions? Then surely we will both be followers of this new candidate, won't we? Which means, if you go beyond where we've gotten to so far, you will have in your crew Jesus and Socrates following you. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Oops. We have our divisions, don't we? What follows if there is room for another? It's no small thing you're asking, Jesus. If there is a new category, it may just doom all others. What you are proposing must mean you have a vision of a new kind of metaphysics and, just maybe, a new philosophy. I like what you do, Socrates. You raise the issue to a higher level. Then I will have to be careful how to best represent this candidate, as you call him. I do think I have a way of going. What if I cite the major ideas of our candidate, and you tell me if he belongs in your camp or mine? Surely that means I will have to do justice to what I select and offer it to you for your comments. So then let me ask you, if a new idea of man is brought forward that clearly announces a new kind of divine/man-like activity, would not that mean that the divine or God has made man to no longer reflect upon himself as man, but as a God whose activity is in the sphere of new man? Of the new man. So a new kind of person beyond these two jabronis, a new class of man who reflects on himself as the isekai God, by participating in a new kind of divine/man-like activity. Who is this new creature? Who is this new class of man? That's for next time. So next time we'll explore what is this new class of man, and this new, not reflecting on yourself as a man, but as God. A God? As God. What is it? As a God. Now it's funny because we have been playing with the trope of the isekai God from anime by looking at the Dream Maker. So today we have looked at how to bring everything that we've seen in the model into moment-to-moment creation, making it immediate, seeing that our enlightenment is potentially immediate because each instant is from self through that model of mind that reverts upon itself for the next moment of creation. Somehow instantaneously would have to be. We wouldn't want lag between each moment of time. And we've gone beyond the Platonic philosophers like Damascus by seeing how you can confirm this in experience by dream analysis. You can get your own particular benefit. You're engaging in a kind of practice of reflecting on the gap, which is a preparation for seeing the self, knowing the self. But also we're learning about the isekai God, because the Dream Maker seems to be where we're heading ourselves. Wow! Isn't that amazing? And now, well, really today what we've been doing is seeing if we can put all into this map of time the three big things: our problems, our false models of self and reality, the whole of all parts, what we can now call pure ousia, or intelligence itself, or that which reverts to create each moment, and also this higher qualityless isekai self, God, in the gap. So, have we accounted for it? Seems to be a transition from one into other, from a whole into whole of parts into the moment. Is there that brilliant light of being here in the transition? And if it happens 30 something times a second, can you know yourself all the time? Is that what it means to be as immortal and a friend of the gods as any man can be? Wow. But also highlighting for us what Socrates has been harping on about all the time.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Oh boy, that is a little weird.
It's a little bit weird how much he
I
says
love
it,
this guy.
but we love this guy
Talking about a bunch of slop.
because he's not talking about a bunch of stuff.
Do a poggers.
He does a poggers by saying you can only confirm this and see this and develop yourself through dreams. And now we have the model for why that's true. Holy fuck. And next time we're going to see if is the one who does this the emerging of a new class of human being that goes beyond Jesus and Socrates' followers, that reverts on himself as isekai God or self. And is that therefore that emerging of a new class of man simply an emerging of the next stage in human evolution in this particular moment that we are moving into? Holy fuck. I should stop swearing, but my God, it's a banger. How many of the books can bring you up into where we are in spiritual and philosophical thought and understanding? They hide. You don't get further than this. This is as far as Damascus got and what Socrates pointed to with dreams. But then say, hang on a second, is there a class beyond where we reach? The next stage in human development? This book is amazing. I keep saying it's a banger, but it bangs. Holy fuck, does it bang. So, next time, exciting. We're going to look at what is that new class of man and how can we be that dude or dudette. Lots and lots of fun. Feel free to follow on Twitch, YouTube. You can donate to the channel. That is greatly appreciated. You'll find a link to text below. And I will see you in the next oneness unfolding and reverting. The next one.